We had a great response to our best hurling team of the last 25 years, 1995 to 2010, in terms of the best players never to win in All Ireland. So we're going to do the same for football. Of course, we're going to try and pick him in as realistic positions as possible. We were looking at the goalkeeper. It wasn't probably someone who was an absolute definite, Michael Verney, but we looked at David Clarke, Brendan McVeigh, who obviously was part of the down team that got to the All Ireland in 2010. Gary Connaughton, who was very good at Westmeath and of course played at, was it Athlone Town he played soccer for as well in goals. Rory Beggan, Fergal Byron, All-Star winner with Laois, and Niall Morgan, who of course has been very good, especially in the last couple of seasons with Tyrone. But it wasn't like a really, really obvious one, was it?
No, not really. I suppose the first thing to say when we go to pick this team, it's kind of different than the hurling. While like Mayo are probably maybe more central to it than any other county, I think this takes in an awful lot of counties. There's an awful lot of different counties represented. There's a particular debate over a couple of spots that were very, very keenly contested, which people had seen in a minute. But the goalkeeping one, no, there was probably a lot of very good candidates, but no one that really kind of jumped above where you were saying, yeah, he definitely has to be picked. But we both kind of agreed in the end that David Clarke was the standout kind of choice. Obviously nominated for Footballer of the Year, two-time All-Star, had a seriously long Mayo career with a couple of gaps in between. But like over the last couple of years, he's been unbelievably good. He's been one of the main reasons why they've been so consistent, particularly at the tail end of the championship. And I think he just had. If Rory Beggan's career was finished and it was 5 years down the line, maybe it would be him. Gary Connaughton had a brilliant career as well, but I think David Clarke, his longevity is kind of what stood out for me. Longevity at a really, really high level.
And it's one of the big things here not to have that recency bias, because you could end up easily picking all players that played in the last 5 or 10 years because it's freshest in your memory. But you can't forget what the likes of Gary Connaughton did. Like at first when I was thinking Brendan McVeigh, I was like, I had to sort of, delve back to think how good he was that year in 2010. Like so many of those guys, like the likes of Danny Hughes had an unbelievable season, but we're not going to probably mention him. Like Dan Gordon had some great seasons. Like there's plenty of those down lads. But very few really actually kind of pushed to get into the team. Like even Marty Clark, unbelievable for 1 year, but I just don't think his body of work is enough. So that's why you have to make sure you don't either just go for the star power or the recency bias. You got to think like Fergal Byron was really, really good. Did he do it for long enough? Maybe not quite enough to get in this team. Like David Clarke, so good for so long. Gary Connaughton, really, really good. So we're settled on David Clarke anyway for the goals. And please let us know if you disagree with us, if you think we're fools, whatever it is. Let us know. Comment on ourgame.ie.
We're definitely going to think we're fools anyway.
No doubt about that. I think that's confirmed from a long way out. So the full back line. This was tough. This was tough. And actually there weren't, we talked about the recency bias. There actually wasn't too many that we were thinking that are really jumping out at us from the last couple of years. And again, maybe we're wrong here. Maybe someone's got a better kind of suggestion. But we kind of narrowed it down to Sean Marty Lockhart, who was brilliant for Derry. John Keane, Westmeath, All-Star. Again, people might even forget him, but he was an All-Star. He was so good. Barry Owens with Fermanagh, two-time All-Star, brilliant during the noughties. Kevin McCloy, 2007 All-Star for Derry. Like he was such a well-respected full-back around that era. Keith Higgins with Mayo. I mean, he's probably the first one that everyone's going to think of because he's done so much in so many of the more recent seasons. And then Joe Higgins of Laois, another All-Star, and Cathal Daly of Offaly. So it's not just like we're trying to not just go for like the counties that everyone is kind of expecting. Mayo, they got to all the All Ireland finals. No, like you're trying to look far and wide because there are brilliant footballers all over the country.
There are, and just someone you mentioned there, like John Keane. John Keane's a two-time All-Star cornerback, and a lot of people would say that when you're talking about the conversation for the best Westmeath footballer the last 25 years, that it's him, and he's probably been overlooked for the number 2 spot, but he's been like an outstanding player, but he's been overlooked by another outstanding player. Like Sean Marty Lockhart was just unbelievable for Derry. Invariably ended up marking the best forward on the opposition team. And if you talk to any, particularly those Ulster forwards, for the guts of a decade, everyone hated marking him. He was just a disaster. Derry weren't going unreal at the time or anything like that. They were good. They were a competitive side. They were winning the odd Ulster here and there. But Sean Marty Lockhart was kind of the driving force from cornerback. And it's just, I don't know, it's something about the name as well that just makes him even more of a legendary figure. like if ever anybody lived up to a name, he definitely does. And he was outstanding for Derry. Brilliant man marker, but a brilliant footballer as well.
Yeah, there's so many syllables in that name, yet it rolls off the tongue. Sean Marty Lockhart, great to say. So we've gone with him. We've gone with Barry Owens at fullback and Keith Higgins. So I think in terms of like a back four, David Clark, Lockhart, Owens and Higgins, you're not doing too bad there at all. The half back line was tough. So we tried to go with lads who will generally play number 5, generally play number 6, generally play number 7. And there's obviously a bit of wiggle room, and people will say, oh, that lad definitely could have played that wing. I get it. But we're just going to try and do our best just to kind of, I don't know, make it a little bit more interesting. So number 5, pick between John Kenny of Offaly, Colin Boyle of Mayo and Keith Higgins. Now, I know Colin Boyle can play centre-back and you can move over Keith Higgins all you like too. And Higgins can actually play, or Lee Keegan can play pretty much anywhere in the whole field. But look, let's be honest, it's probably Lee Keegan, isn't it?
For me, it is. Obviously, a footballer of the year. He's probably the best defender. He's the best defender I've seen in the last maybe 10 or 15 years, I'd say. And the way he went about sacrificing his game to mark, the likes of Connolly, the likes of Kieran Kilkenny as well, in big pressurised situations, and he did it so well too.
Sean Cavanagh, he actually man-marked Sean Cavanagh out of that semi-final, was it? Or quarter-final in 2016, then went on and completely shut down Michael Quinlivan, who'd been running the show in 2016 also, and went out to midfield and sent Endem Smith the other way when he was having a brilliant season there a couple of years ago. So he's, like, actually, do you know what? Would Lee Keegan be better, or would you rank him more highly than Jack McCaffrey? I don't think there'd be much in it.
Oh, that's a fair battle. If you're looking at Keegan from 16-17 against McCaffrey, that's tough. I'd say, like, funnily enough, McCaffrey's unbelievable at breaking the line and going forward. Keegan can do that as well, but I think Keegan's a better defender, personally, when he's put on the back foot. But McCaffrey is that bit better going forward as well. Asher, listen, you'd be blessed if you had both of them on the same team, to be fair. It's a nice debate to be having.
I wonder what, we've never seen the situation where McCaffrey's been asked to be that man at the back tagging somebody. It'd be interesting to see how he'd go if he was ever given the shot. Okay, so we're going to stick with Lee Keegan. Centre back then, we've decided to pick between Glenn Ryan of Kildare, obviously a legendary figure for them, Kevin McKernan, brilliant over so many years for Down. Even when Down haven't been going particularly good, he's been excellent and still is to this day. And then Tom Kelly of Laois.
Yeah, Tom Kelly is one of these kind of legendary figures in my head. It's funny how different characters from like different eras. What was it? 02, 03, I would have been 14 or 15, and there's some players that just leave a mark on you. Joe Higgins would have, Tom Kelly would have, the likes of Bino McDonald would have as well, just because Laois were going very well at the time. He was brilliant. Went on to be, he was very good for the international rules team as well that year. But Glenn Ryan, I think it's very hard to look past Glenn Ryan. He's All-Star 97 and 98. He was the rock, really, of the Kildare defence. And yeah, Tom Kelly was good for a couple of seasons. Ken McKiernan has been very consistent over, the guts of a decade and more. But Glenn Ryan was outstanding in his position, to be fair. And he was the rock at the heart of the Kildare defence that nearly came and made a breakthrough and nearly won All-Ireland from nowhere, obviously, under Micko.
Absolutely. And then the number 7 shirt. Now, you could argue that Ryan McHugh could be in the forward somewhere. You could argue he should be at right wing back. But I don't know, even just to make it a little bit tasty here, we'll put Ryan McHugh up against Kevin Cassidy. And also, I think Aaron Kernan would have to be mentioned in this one as well. That's a fairly tasty one because both, like Kevin Cassidy's career with Donegal, even though I think we all know it shouldn't have, but it finished up the year before the All-Ireland, whereas Ryan McHugh came into the Donegal scene the year after the All-Ireland. So they both missed out by 1 year. Two unreal players. I think Aaron Kernan, just a real footballer and wing back. The sort of the guy who normally looks wrong if a guy comes up to the far 21 to take a free, but such was his style, wearing a number 5 shirt. It didn't matter. He'd just go up and stroke a free and it just looked right because he was such a graceful footballer.
Yeah, Aaron Kernan was a lovely footballer. Like, he could have easily been playing corner forward. He easily could have been that gifted kind of left-footed corner forward that jinked and put the ball over the bar. But he was a brilliant wing back, brilliant going forward as well. I think it's a really interesting duel between Cassidy and McHugh. Two different types of players, like in a sense, because McHugh is, not saying that Cassidy wasn't all energy, but McHugh is all energy. McHugh is the modern day footballer. It's, up and down, breaking tackles. It's his elusiveness, everything brilliant going forward. Obviously, got the key scores in the 2014 All-Ireland semi-final when they dethroned the Dubs. Cassidy is more your old-style defender in many ways, because he's just a big brute of a man, just unbelievably strong, but can go forward as well. And never forget the point against Kildare in extra time in the 2011 quarter final, absolutely outstanding. And again, he was going well even when Donegal weren't going that well. I remember him playing absolutely brilliant in an All-Ireland quarter final against the Dubs in Croke Park, and him playing even well in the replay when they were well beaten as well. For me, I think it's easy be clouded a tiny bit by the recency bias. Ryan McHugh has been brilliant. In 5 years' time, maybe it'll be Ryan McHugh, but as a body of work throughout their career, it's Cassidy for me.
Yeah, I'll just about go with you as well. And I wouldn't discount Aaron Kernan from the conversation either. But yeah, I think we just about agree on Cassidy. Midfield, this is where the problem started, because there's so many lads you could include here. So just to run through the different options. And we definitely haven't agreed on it. And the only way we could come to any conclusion is you get to pick one and I get to pick one. But the options are Gary Brennan, Eamon O'Hara of Sligo, Kieran Whelan Dublin, Paddy Keenan of Louth, John Galvin of Limerick, who was unreal, Aidan O'Shea of Mayo, 3 times All-Star, Dermot Early of Kildare, Enda Muldoon of Derry, and Marty McGrath of Fermanagh. Actually, start off on Marty McGrath there of Fermanagh, because you were just looking into his career and his ups and downs.
Yeah, sure. He's had an unbelievable career, really, when you look at it. He had testicular cancer, overcame that. He had 2 heart surgeries as well, and still managed to keep his career, his inter-county career, going throughout all this, which is outstanding. Even that's the same to be said with Barry Owens, who obviously had a heart surgery as well, and then came on in an Ulster Championship match and punched a goal after coming onto the field about a minute later. But Marty McGrath was a serious midfielder. When you think of that Fermanagh team that got to the All-Ireland semi-final in 2004, like Marty McGrath is one of the mainstays of that team. He was outstanding. We're so blessed with the names we've mentioned there. Like you have 10 lads realistically going for 2 spots. I got to pick my midfielder. You got to pick yours. My midfielder is Gary Brennan. Over the course of the last 10 to 12 years since he broke on the scene with Clare, like, not only is he their best player, their best midfielder, to me he's one of the best midfielders in the country. And if you talk to any of the lads from the traditional counties, like to talk to like a Tomas O'Shea or any of the Dubs or something like that, anytime they've ever encountered him or seen him playing, like, he's the one name that they always say. What player, if there was a transfer market, what player? If there's a player that should win All-Ireland but won't win, who should it be? Gary Brennan is the one that always comes up. The really, really mobile midfielder, has an unbelievable leap. He could just dominate games from the skies as well. Was able to get up and down, was able to kick scores, was a brilliant defender as well. To me, as a midfielder in the modern day, I think he had it all. I don't know if his Clare county career is going to resume in 2021, but hopefully it will. He's been an outstanding servant for them, and I think, yeah, even playing international rules as well, I think it ticks all the boxes for me there.
I'd say a lot of Dubs are going to be unhappy that Kieran Whelan isn't in here. Of course, he just about missed out on the All-Irelands either side of 95 and 2011. Just kind of a bit iconic, the way he'd win the high balls and that kind of thing. I think the Dub fans just loved him. Eamon O'Hara has his All-Star. He also won a Connacht title in, was it possibly 04 or 07? I can't remember which, actually, off the top of my head. John Galvin, so good for Limerick. I mean, they were really close to the breakthrough throughout the noughties and even into the early kind of 10s. And he was so good, just driving force up through midfield, which is, of course, a kind of a running theme with a lot of these. Aidan O'Shea, he's sort of like a lightning rod for criticism, but like he's had a lot of brilliant games too. You can't deny that, and over a long period of time. Enda Muldoon, so good for Derry. But Dermot Early had to be the one for me. He's just graceful, glorious, but could burst through you as well. Long period serving Kildare, got them so close to the end line. I just think he was an absolutely brilliant footballer, whether he's starting out in the half-forward line, then in midfield, iconic. I think we all remember when his dad passed away, he went and he played a game that evening then for Kildare. Just an iconic figure. And I know we had a bit of a disagreement. You wanted Kieran Whelan in. I kind of thought, okay, maybe. I was even looking at John Galvin. But I think it'd be hard to beat that midfield either way. No matter who you sub in or out, Gary Brennan and Dermot Early's not far off it.
And if you put the two of them together, the beauty of it is you don't have a holding midfielder. They're both natural holding midfielders. They're both like fielding midfielders, and they're both capable of going forward. So I think, I think you'd be hard pressed to beat the two of them. They're both going to defend brilliantly for you. They're both going to lord in the skies, and they're both going to score for you. So I don't think you can ask for much more than that.
Is it fair to say that the half forward line didn't have the amount or the depth that other lines had? Like, I think the full back line didn't have massive depth of guys at the same level. Half forward line also. So we're picking from Johnny Doyle, Paul Barden, Kieran McDonald, Mark Breheny, Leighton Glynn and Matty Donnelly. Now, that's Matty Donnelly's the only Tyrone man. Well, actually, sorry, obviously Niall Morgan appears in here as well in the goals. But other than that, it's just Matty Donnelly. No one else appears here, because from the players from 08 on, some of the All-Stars are won by players that actually had won All-Irelands, like Colin Cavanagh, Sean Cavanagh and so on. But yeah, I mean, the half forward line isn't well stocked, but the guys that are there are pretty good now. I think Johnny Doyle and Kieran McDonald are guarantees. Leighton Glynn, again, if you're talking about recency bias, some of our younger viewers might be thinking, who's Leighton Glynn? But he was unbelievable and a guaranteed starter for the international rules teams there for a long time.
Yeah, he was class. Remember that weekend where he played a county final, or was it a Leinster Championship match with Glenealy hurling, and then played international rules the next day after? You know, or did he play? He could have played international rules and then played club. Either way around. But he was the sort of lad that was capable of doing that. Had an unbelievable career for the footballers. Won the Tommy Murphy, obviously, with Micko, and had a couple of good runs in the qualifiers with Micko as well. Was playing hurling with Wicklow at the same time too. He had an unbelievable career, unbelievable engine too. And the funny thing is, when he played international rules, he was always one of the better players. He was always in your top 5 or 6 when they played international rules as well. I think it's easy maybe overlook someone like that. And I think maybe we could have overlooked Leighton Glynn and brought someone from, a surplus player in the full forward line out. But I don't think that's fair. I don't think any of those guys in the full forward line would have been natural half forwards. Like Leighton Glynn is a natural half forward and will get up and down the pitch for you. Whereas if we brought someone from the inside line out, you're just putting them there because there wasn't a spot for them in the full forward line. I think Leighton Glynn is the best option at wing forward. Outstanding player, an outstanding servant for Wicklow.
I think it's a massive cop-out if you start bringing lads and moving them out the field. A bit like Brian Howard been started centre-back in the All-Stars, or Colin Cavanagh named at full-back even the year before as well. It's a cop-out. Let's just, look, there's brilliant players there. Some lads are going to have to miss out. Not everyone can play corner forward. Kieran McDonald, I think, like Mark Breheny played for so long for Sligo, wasn't it? Something like 17 seasons. Pretty stylish on the ball. Always kind of leading the line for them. Paul Barden, brilliant for Longford. I think he's kind of like the poster boy, a bit like Mickey Quinn in terms of, like, Longford always produced good footballers. For so many years it was Paul Barden always mentioned. It's always Mickey Quinn who's mentioned now. But Kieran McDonald, what he did for Mayo for so long, I think everyone wishes he had an All-Ireland. Same with Johnny Doyle. So I think for a finish we probably did pick the right 3. Matty Donnelly, another couple of years' time, maybe, but not quite just at the moment.
Just what you were saying about Tyrone is interesting. Perhaps that's why they haven't won the All Ireland, is because there's not that out those really outstanding players that you remember from the 03, 05 and 08 teams. Peter Canavan, Owen Mulligan, Sean Cavanagh, Conor Gormley, Hub Hughes, all those sort of players. You can't really mention those kind of same names now. Like Peter Hart maybe could have come into the equation, but we felt Matty Donnelly was a better option at half forward. But just on Kieran McDonald, like an absolute pleasure to watch him playing football. Even still, you get the odd clip. He used to, up until a year or two anyway, of across Malina league match where he's putting over this like arrowed shot from 50 yards that you've never seen before. The point he got against Dublin to win which year was it? The All Ireland semi final where he kicked that point out from the left underneath.
2006.
Yeah, like that was outrageous. Even we look back on clips of a couple of the All Ireland finals where they lost to Kerry. He was marking Eamon Fitzmaurice. Remember, he kicked over a point from the outside of the left from about 45, 50 yards. Just pure class. Everything about him. The long blonde hair, the red socks pulled up that definitely weren't Mayo socks. I'm not sure what socks they were, but they definitely weren't Mayo socks anyway. But everything about him was iconic. And Johnny Doyle, you knew what you were going to get with Johnny Doyle. You were going to get 7.5 out of 10 every day he went out to play for Kildare. Unbelievably accurate from the frees. No more than myself, the little iconic little Grey patch as well. Just
Morgan Freeman here.
Just an outstanding player, and like even still playing junior football with Kildare until recent years, like just an unbelievable servant. I think that's the best half hour line you could have picked in their positions.
I remember interviewing Andrew McLaughlin, who was a cornerback for Kildare there for a long time, and he was saying the one lad he hated marking, if I remember the interview correctly, was Johnny Doyle, because if you were a lad who couldn't stay going, he'd find the bottom of you very quickly. And I remember towards the end of Johnny Doyle's career with Kildare, you would have loved to have him close to goal, especially when you're getting on a little bit more, you want to mind that sort of player. But because he was so important to them and just so brilliant, they still had to put him out around the midfield when he was getting absolutely clattered. But like, he was so good, they still had him out there. Just an iconic player, absolutely brilliant. I think the full forward line was the place stacked with the most depth. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Just to even read out some of the names here. Declan Brown, Colin Corkery, Benny Coulter, Paddy Bradley, Michael Meehan, Andy Moran, Conor McManus, Matty Ford, Desi Dolan, and we actually even named David Clifford. He's only been playing for a couple of seasons, but he's still already brilliant and has probably done a lot more than plenty of other guys we could have mentioned. Some people will probably have a problem with naming him in there and leaving out some other guys, but geez, the depth here is unreal.
It's savage. Just on the Clifford one, 2 seasons at Inter-County, 2 All-Stars, Young Footballer of the Year, and he's in the top 2 or 3 best footballers in the country, and he's only 21. So I don't have a problem. I'm sure he will get his All-Ireland. I don't have a problem putting him in there at the moment. The class in the full forward line, the class, as you say, the class of player that you're going to leave out. It's a shame, and we could have shifted someone out to the half hour line. I don't think it would have been right. I think we've picked. I think anyway, there's a bit of debate about one position in particular, but I think our full forward line that we have picked is absolute top drawer stuff.
Do you know Declan Brown was obviously a brilliant hurler as well? He was in college in WIT. The full forward line was Declan Brown, Henry Shefflin and Neil Ronan. Wasn't bad, was it?
The hurling, the Fitzgibbon full forward line. Jesus Christ, right, yeah. Like only he was from, a proper football stronghold, Mile Rovers. He wouldn't have, he probably would have played hurling. He probably would have been coaxed to play hurling. The tip footballers losing him back then, there would have been no point in going out playing championship games realistically without him. He was that good. He was unreal. He always delivered invariably. Probably about an 8 out of 10 every day he went out to play for Tipperary. He was class, left or right. He had it all, and I loved always watching them play when they played against the likes of Kerry, because he could shoot the lights out against maybe Clare, Waterford, etc. But when he played Kerry, they were invariably his best games, and he caused trouble for some of the best defenders in the game, top class.
So of course, if we're picking Declan Brown, which we are, there's a few guys that are missing out in that number 13 shirt. Colin Corkery could obviously play anywhere in the full forward line, but he's not being picked. He was iconic and he missed out. Yeah, he was just a bit like Kieran Whelan. He was just in that era, just where he missed out on the All-Irelands. He did get it with, he won them all right with Nemo Rangers, but just fabulous, iconic footballer, carrying a small bit of timber, and that probably even added to his lure, didn't it?
Yeah, no, there's nothing. I don't know. There's just something about those folk hero characters that are carrying a bit of timber, because it just makes the normal person think, "Geez, I could be out there. Look at him. He's carrying a bit of weight. I'm carrying a bit of weight. I could do the same as well." He was top class, and even the Predators would see Corkery on them. And I remember he kicked a point to beat Kerry in a replayed Munster final. I think it was a Munster final, and he just came out the field like that, the finger waving in the air like that. Iconic figure. Unfortunately, he's going to lose out this full forward line. Usually to be a place for Colin Corkery on any team, but just been pushed out of this one. Yeah,
I feel sorry for Benny Coulter as well. He had a career that lasted 15 years. Brilliant to watch. All-Star in 2010. Never got an Ulster title, of course, which, I mean, a county like Down, who produce the footballers they produce, it's shocking that they haven't won one at this stage. Paddy Bradley, brilliant left footer, watch him play all day. I actually wonder how good Owen Bradley, his brother Skinner, would have been if he had to stick the course with football throughout his entire career. I think he left at different stages and was focusing on soccer also. and Michael Meehan, who you just wonder how good would he have been if Galway got with the times a little bit quicker in terms of their setup and how they set up, and also if obviously injuries didn't absolutely ruin his career.
Yeah, Michael Meehan is one of those kind of what might have been. Like, he was, don't get me wrong, he was brilliant when he was fit, but there was 4 or 5 years there where he just was struggling with injury. And like, I'll always hark back to the day he gave Mark O'Shea an awful time in 2010 in the All-Ireland quarter-final in the rain up in Croke Park. He gave him an awful scutcheon. He ended up at 1-5 that day. One of the great. He got that free as well. Actually, who was that free against? Where he hit 21. There's about 10 lads on the line.
That was against Cork.
Yeah, like, just he had that ability to literally put a ball through the eye of a needle. Just a pity. I know he made a comeback in recent years. Just a pity that injuries kind of caught up on him. But like, even as good as he was, he's a fair bit down the pecking order in the full forward line that we ended up. That's how strong it is.
And because if David Clifford, if he loses a few more All-Ireland finals or doesn't quite get over the line, he'll probably be a guaranteed starter here. But we're not going to start him. Conor McManus doesn't make our team, and he's probably like. Conor McManus walks into any team in the last 15 years, without doubt about it. And Tommy Freeman doesn't even get a mention, and he was the Conor McManus before Conor McManus came along. It hurts me to leave him off.
Yeah, I have to admit, I thought he was on our team. I didn't realise he was gone surplus to requirements. That's Jesus Christ. That'll show you just how good it is. Probably between McManus and Declan Brown, it's very harsh. It is very harsh to leave him off, to be fair. But
it would have been recency bias to have McManus over Brown, I think, because people forget just how good Declan Brown was.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough too. Yeah, like, McManus's career is still going on. When his career is over, I'd say he'd be a shoe-in for this team. But yeah, class player. But that's the nature of it. The hard calls have to be made,
and we're not afraid to make them either, are we? And
we have stuff to do it, and we go out and do it.
So the Desi Dolan is mentioned here as well. We're not quite putting him into the team, brilliant and all as he was, but our full forward line is going to be Declan Brown, Andy Moran, who's obviously Footballer of the Year, and Matty Ford, who just unbelievable, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's the one player in that full forward line I don't even think there's a debate around. I just don't think there could be a debate about whether Matty Ford is in that team. Absolutely gifted. His club, Killenairn, made a DVD basically going through his career and everything, and Micheál Mahertic has the quote on the front, just gifted with the ball. And he left and right. Remember the day against Meath down in Carlow when he backed them by himself. They were well down that day. The 4 goals against Galway in the league, the All-Ireland semi-final, even though he was injured against Tyrone that day, he was just, he was probably the class. Conor McManus was harshly left out. Jesus, he's very harshly left out. But as you say, the recency bias may be a small bit, but Declan Brown was class for Tip. He was a brilliant player. He would have made any team at the time. He would have been the first forward picked in nearly every team in the country.